Hey Bookaholics, so welcome back to another video. Today I am bringing you an unhaul. If you saw last week's haul, then you'll know that I have been hauling a lot of books. And, you know, the space I have is not multiplying. So I'm going to be getting rid of some books that either I have lost all interest in reading, or I have read and not loved, or books that were never mine that I borrowed from other people's shelves and have since lost interest in reading. I've divided the piles up. Let's get into them. The first pile is books that I have been gifted. I think I have literally been gifted all of these. Oh no, there are a couple of charity shop books on here as well that I have no interest in reading. I'm never going to get round to reading. They've been on so many lists of just, I should read these, and I'm not going to. So they are leaving the premises. The only one on this pile that I did just pay full price for is Saturday by Ian McEwan. When I moved to the UK in 2013, I enrolled in an English literature course. My living circumstances changed, which meant that I could not complete the course, but one of the required readings was Saturday. And I had bought the book ready to read it for the course, only to then not continue with the course and not need to read it. It was not a book that I picked up by choice. It's not one that I would have chosen to read, but it was just killing me slightly that I had paid full price for this book and now was not going to be reading it. So I kept holding on to it, and I keep being like, oh, I will read it because I paid full price for it. And if it's in a course, then it's for a reason, and I just don't care anymore. Like, nothing particularly against the book. I don't know anything really about it. It's just, it's not one that I want to read. I have had it for 10 years and I've not picked it up. So I'm not going to, am I? Let's be honest, I haven't in 10 years. So it's going, and that's fine, because I bought it for a purpose and then I didn't need it to fulfill its purpose, and that's it. I can let go. The two charity shop books that I have, the first one is The Reapers of the Angels by Aidan Bell. This one I picked up because I was doing a zombie reading vlog where I was reading books that had zombies or zombie-like creatures in it, and I picked this one up because I was excited. However, the problem with this is that it is YA, and that just, I didn't know that at the time. It's published by Tor. I didn't know that Tor did YA. So I picked it up thinking that it was going to be an adult book. And then when I found out that it was YA, I kind of instantly went off it, which is the unfair bias against YA. But there are things that I love reading YA for. Fantasy romance, for starters. Nothing better than YA. A sweet, wholesome, good time. Like, if you want steamy, no. But if you want just a really fun, sweet time, YA. Like, there are genres that YA just do best. But horror is not one for me that I think YA does for an adult reader. This is going to be fantastic for its target audience and the people who it will suit. I am just not one of them. I potentially will keep this and put it on my shelves for when my sons are older, or my daughter as well, but like my sons will get older first. They'll get there first and see if they like it when they are the target audience for it, but it's coming off of my TBR. And the other charity shop book was La Librera y el Ladrón by Oliver Espinosa. This one is a literary fiction, and I only picked it up because I never see secondhand Spanish books. Like, they're just not really a thing. So I picked this one up, but I have heard not great things, and I've never gravitated towards reading it aside from when I first saw it in the shop and was like, oh my god, that sounds amazing. And it was literally just because like a Spanish book in a charity shop, which just doesn't happen. Again, I've not picked it up in like 5 years. So I'm not going to read it, and it would be better placed in the hands of someone who will actually want to read it. Now, getting into books that were gifted to me, the first one I have is Alice by Christina Henry. I am not the biggest Alice in Wonderland fan. Like, I enjoy it enough as a story. I don't need millions of retellings. It's a very over retold story. It's like Beauty and the Beast. It's just, we get it. Okay, we get it. Really, really honest. She fell down the hole. Okay, I get it. And it's just not one that I'm hugely fussed about. So this one, someone was reading it when they came over to visit. They had no intention of taking it back. They said if I wanted it, I said sure. And since then, I just don't want to read it. Like, I just haven't particularly thought about reading it. It's a very battered copy as well. So I don't know if I physically could read it without losing all the pages. It's just not something that I am fussed about. It's the first book in a trilogy as well. I'm definitely not going to go buy the other book. So why start a series that I know I'm not going to continue? The same goes with, it's part of a trilogy that I won't continue, and also just very much not my genre, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is a mystery thriller, cold case style story. This is a book about a girl who, I think as a school project, looks into a local murder case and then tries to solve it or something. It just doesn't sound like my thing. Again, relative brought it over to read it while they were here, and then just left it. And I don't like this genre. Like, not irregardless of it being YA, I just don't like the genre. It's just not something I'm fussed about. I just don't care. Getting into the fantasy sphere, for some reason, this is not calling me. This is The Saviour's Champion by Jenna Moretti. I have heard mixed things about it. The plot sounds very, very generic. It's, I believe, about a girl who is the savior and she needs to marry someone. So there's like trials, and dude goes and signs up to be part of the tournament, but so that he can get close to her to murder her. I think it's like an enemies to lovers style story. I just, again, don't really care. I just haven't really been reading YA fantasy as much lately, and there are others that I own that I have chosen for myself that I would rather prioritize should fancy something cozy and easy on the mental health like YA. Then I will gravitate towards the ones that I picked for myself instead of the one that just got left here. So again, nothing hugely against the book, it's just there are other books I'd rather prioritize. As for an author that I have read from before and just really haven't managed to connect with, just not been my thing, and it's such a shame, and that is John Green. I understand that this is also co-authored by David Levithan, but he's not an author I'm particularly fussed about either. So Will Grayson is a contemporary YA about two boys who are both called Will Grayson, and there have been two John Green books that I have found tolerable. He's just not the author for me. I don't connect with his writing style. I don't connect with his characters. I don't find his stories believable. I don't get immersed in them. So I don't know why I still have a John Green book on my shelf, to be honest. Another one I have been umming and ahhing about for a while and considering whether or not I want to read, and I have decided that I don't, and that is Eat Dirt by Goldie Moldovsky. This is a story about a boy who goes on one of those charity camps that they do in America, which I think is ethically questionable, and it's about feuds that happen within the causes within charities and stuff. So clearly it's questioning those ethics, but I don't think I've been in the mental headspace to just read a load of toxic teenagers being toxic over charities. It's just not a premise that I'm like, oh my god, yeah. So I just, as much as it doesn't actually sound that bad, like it does actually sound like an interesting concept, it's just not something that I've been feeling pulled towards. So it's just not staying, mostly because I can't imagine there would be a time where I'd be like, that's the book I want to read. It would only be if the jar forced me to, and I am okay disobeying the jar. So I'm not going to read it. And the last one of unread books that were left to me or given to me that I've heard just terrible things about and I really don't want to read, and that is We All Looked Up by Tommy Wallach. This is one that is about a load of teenagers. So there's a meteor that's coming towards Earth and we're all going to die. We've got like 2 months to live, and it's about a load of people dropping pretenses and just being their most authentic selves. I've heard several reviewers say that it seems like these teenagers' most authentic selves is to be YA stereotypes. So not the best setup for it already. So as much as the concept could be quite cathartic, that whole if you know you're gonna die, what would you do? I am not a teenager, so I am not going to get catharsis out of this anymore anyway. Transitioning from unread towards read, we're going to start with my DNF. So partly read. And the only one on here that's a DNF that I am unhauling, and that is Let the Right One In by John Ajvide Lindqvist. This is a vampire fiction that follows a boy when a vampire and a dude that takes care of her move in next door. And it's an interesting concept, but one of the perspectives, because you get multiple perspectives, one of the perspectives is the guy that is caring for the vampire, and he is a pedophile, and you get things in his perspective. And there was a scene and I couldn't stomach it. It just, no thank you. not for me. So I decided that I didn't need to continue reading this because I was in the first 100 pages. I'd had like 2 scenes that I was like, oh my god, no. So I decided that, oh my god, no, I'm just not going to read it. Like, why would I put myself through that? So I just decided I am not fussed about continuing. It's not one that I am interested in putting myself through. Again, this book, I said this in the review, wherever, it was a wrap up, I think, or maybe a vlog. This book does not condone pedophilia. Don't misread me. This book very much is condemning it. It is not promoting it in any way, but I don't need to read it. Thank you. Just not for me, and that's fine. Now for some books that I have read by some very popular authors, but just my less favorite of their works, or just ones that I don't necessarily need to keep anymore. Just ones that I have decided I don't need on my shelves just for the sake of them being by an author that I like. The first one of those is Smoke and Mirrors by Neil Gaiman. This one is a collection of short stories that he wrote, and I really like Neil Gaiman. Before anyone comes at me, I love Neil Gaiman. Stardust, one of my favorite books. I love The Graveyard Book. I enjoyed The American Gods. I have Anansi Boys on the shelf. This is just not one for me. This was a collection of short stories. I didn't like any of them. And I said in the review for this, I think in the wrap up again for this one, is that this book is almost like authors when they have that like ideas notebook of just like an idea for a story, and then the publishers got a hold of Neil Gaiman's ideas sketchbook and were like, oh no, that's fine, we'll just print this, is kind of what this felt like. There are just some very strange concepts in here, and I just didn't really mesh with any of the short stories. So I will be sticking to Neil's long form fiction, which I really, really enjoy. This just wasn't for me personally. Another one that is probably going to get a lot of hate for me unhauling, but I am unhauling my only volume of One Piece. It was fine. I had a good time with it. It was cute enough. I don't need to continue. I'm not going to be reading however many of these there are, like 100 and something volumes, I think now. I'm not going to be reading 100 volumes of this. I just wanted to kind of sample it. This was, as you can see, €1.95, and I just kind of wanted to try it out and see how it read. So I did, and it was cute, and I enjoyed it, and that was it. It served its purpose. I have sampled, and now I can move on with my life. Another graphic novel that I am unhauling, which is a shame because it's very pretty, is Rondallas by Santi Casas. This is a Spanish manga that it feels very almost epic mythology era, but not any specific mythology. It's got a fictional mythology, but very mythology era style fantasy. The concept was better than the execution. I liked it in theory, I liked the idea, but the execution really didn't work for me. It's very, very male gaze, and I didn't care about any of the characters, and the world building ended up feeling a little bit surface level as well. So again, just not for me. I think that in the charity shop this will find its home. This one also intrigued me because it's a paperback, but it has a dust jacket. And it's a very nice looking book, and I like the art style for however misogynistic it is, but not for me as a story, so it's going. Another one that I have read and have no interest in rereading. It's one of those where I have read it and that's it, and it's never going to become more of my life than that, and that is, I have this collection of Boy and Going Solo by Roald Dahl, which are his 2 biographical novels. He is someone who is interesting. He is, you know, as problematic as he may be, he's an interesting person. I got gifted this book and I gave it a go, and sure, like, I know a little bit more about Roald Dahl now, but he's not someone that I am overly invested in enough to be, oh, I'll keep this, I'll reread it in case I need to reference something about Roald Dahl's life. Like, I don't care. So it's going. That's fine. No one really minds. Another one that in the fantasy sphere will potentially not go down very well that I am unhauling is I'm getting rid of Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. I love Joe Abercrombie's adult books, I really do, but I like YA and I like Joe Abercrombie, but I do not like them together. Please no. This one, it read a little bit like Joe Abercrombie thought he was reinventing YA, all while reading like very typical YA. I think that he thought that YA was literally just Sarah J Maas or something, but it's like there are other YA authors that do this better, in my opinion. And I love Joe Abercrombie. I love his work. I love the First Law world so much. Can't wait for his new series that he's starting, The Devils, I think it's called, or whatever. Can't wait. Love his adult writing. YA, didn't work for me personally. It just felt a little bit too samey. Really. I have already returned some books to their owners, so they're not going to get their unhaul. They will just cease to exist on the channel, and that's fine. But I am returning Julie Walters' biography to my nan. I think started it, or it was on a TBR and I didn't get round to it, and I realized that I didn't mind, so I haven't continued. I am also unhauling The Time of Dragons by Alice Eckert Rotholt, which is a literary fiction about somewhere in the first half of the 20th century, and it's like America and Japan and China and Europe, I think. I don't care, is what I'm saying. I don't know anything about it and I don't care, and I haven't particularly wanted to read it. The next one is Devil's Advocate, which as a story does sound interesting. So it is about, so that the concept of a devil's advocate in Catholicism is that when someone is going to be anointed as a saint, you need someone who gets placed as the devil's advocate. And it's their job to investigate anything that could be morally incriminating against that person and put it forth. Their job is to try and prove why this person should not be made a saint, and we're following a devil's advocate as they are looking into someone who is going to be made a saint. But given the history of people who have been made saints, I don't think that they do a very good job of just saying Google's free now, so there's that at least. Conceptually it's fine, just not one that I've particularly wanted to read. And then the last one is The Visitors by Mary McMinnies, and this is a behind the Iron Curtain style story, so it's about communist Russia. However, since I have kind of felt very hesitant to pick up books about Russia and about communism that aren't by either one, actual Russian people who are alive during that time, or to people who have done incredibly thorough research. So for example, I read The Vori, which is about Russia's super mafia. That one I think did a really good job because it's really well investigated, and it kind of shows both sides. It's not just these guys are all the bad guys, like it just discusses it in a very neutral tone. So I am interested to see more behind the Iron Curtain stories, but I think a book that was written while the Iron Curtain was still up by someone who is not particularly known for being an investigative author, I just don't think it's going to bring me much information, and therefore it's just going to be a bit more of a fairy tale than anything else, and I'm not fussed, so that one's going as well. So those are all the books that I am going to be unhauling, which is fine. I'm making space. I am curating my shelves to look more like shelves that make me excited to read. It's all part of the process of being a reader. When you own this many books, you've got to cull them sometimes, and these seem like the right decision. There are none that I'm hesitant to get rid of. There are none that I'm like, oh, I'm not sure, maybe I should keep that. No, I'm happy with these all going. I think the one that I am potentially most unsure about unhauling without reading, probably The Devil's Advocate, just because it is an interesting concept. It's just that I've not been gravitating towards it. But this is one that I might read and then unhaul. I don't feel the need to keep it, but that's the only one I think that I'm like, well, maybe. But the rest, I am happy to be gone. So that is all from me for today. So thank you ever so much for watching, and let me know if you've read any of these. Don't try and convince me to keep them because they're probably all gone by the time this goes up. But that is everything. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you in another one soon. Bye.